came from. It is based entirely on their size. Little penguins are actually the smallest species of penguin in the world. They only get to about 30 to 35 centimetres in height. That's right. About 1 to 1.2 kilos in weight. Now when you compare that to their close cousin the emperor penguin, which stands at well over a metre tall, it is quite incredible the size differences that you do find in the penguin family. Now despite their name and their small stature, they do have massive appetites. We feed our penguins twice a day, once in the morning and once now in the afternoon. And on average, each of our penguins will eat 10 of these fish. Now they are very much what's known as gorge feeders. Quite often what we'll see is they'll come out in the morning and they'll smash as much food as they possibly can. Then they put themselves in a bit of a food coma for the rest of the day, so quite often we don't see them for the afternoon feeding. Fortunately though, everyone looks really hungry today, so you should get a very good feeding out of them, which is always good to see. Now quite soon we will be entering our breeding season. In that time we see a massive increase in the amount of food these birds eat every day. Raising chicks is extremely hard work, so to make it as easy as possible for themselves, they do eat as much food as possible every day. Similarly, not long after the breeding season is finished, we see a second spike in the amount of food that's being eaten. In about a 2-week period, every single bird here will pretty much double their body weight. Then they'll stop eating completely and they'll start to lose all of their feathers. This is what's known as a molt, and it is a very common occurrence. Little penguins rely on their feathers to enable them to be out in the water and retain their waterproof abilities. So to make sure their feathers are nice and new, a couple of times throughout the year they'll drop them all in one big go and grow in a whole new set. Now during this time they are unable to hunt out in the wild, so they would be stuck on land for about 3 weeks whilst they wait for their new feathers to come through. So they're unable to eat for that period. That's why they have that massive gorge feed beforehand, so they have some nice big fat reserves to live off of. Now as well as having big appetites, they do also have big personalities. You can see there's a couple of them here pushing me around, letting them know that they're hungry. But they're also extremely vocal penguins. Little penguins are the most vocal penguin species on the planet. They have up to 17 different calls, and each of those calls means something very different. These can range from a simple greeting to an alarm call to let others know that there are predators in the area. Now the reason they rely on those vocalisations so much is little penguins are not too good at telling each other apart just by looking at each other. What they are very good at though is telling each other apart by sound. So each of these birds has a call that no other penguin in the world has, and it usually is to help find their way home if they become a little bit lost or disorientated. Quite often we find that our wild penguin colonies number into the thousands, and they are extremely chaotic places. Now being penguins, they're not too good at flying, so they do have to nest on the ground. You see at the back here we have some mimic burrows. These are very similar to what you would find wild penguins nesting out in the wild. But the problem with those burrows is they all look exactly the same. Now in a colony that numbers about 2,000, it's very easy for a penguin to become a little bit lost, end up in the wrong burrow, curled up next to someone else's girlfriend. Now if this happens, he's probably going to get himself a bit of a peck on the bum, and he's going to have to leave the area very quickly. So to avoid all of that, what they do is they will wander up and down the beach, letting out that distinct call. Eventually they hear a return call, they know that's their mate and that's their burrow, and that's where they can return to for a bit of a snooze. Now, these